Hi everyone, I'm Diane Simmons. I own Cake Connection here in Jackson, Michigan. And we've had a lot of requests from some of our out-of-town Facebook friends and people who buy from us online for one of our candy demos, since I do them in store here quite often. So tonight I'm not going to do the full demo that I usually do in the store for our classroom, but I am going to do, hopefully we'll keep it to about 15 minutes or so, just show you some basics with the candies so you can make some fun treats this Christmas. Okay, so let's get started. All right, I'm going to be working with Merckens Chocolate tonight, and then I also use Paramount crystals, and what the Paramount crystals do is thin the chocolate down and make a softer bite. Okay, typically you don't have to use them if you're making just like a solid candy bar or anything like that. I tend to put it in most everything that I do, just because a lot of times I cross over and I might make some dipped pretzels or some shells for some filled candies or something while I'm making it, so I'd rather just have it in there just to be safe. And when I say it softens the bite, what it does, most people are familiar with a chocolate dipped strawberry, where if you bite into it, a lot of times if it doesn't have a Paramount crystals in there, you'll end up, the chocolate will crack and just fall all over the place after you take your first bite. Nobody wants that. So we put this in, that stops that. All right. So our first thing we're going to do, and I've actually already melted some chocolate, so you don't have to sit and listen to the microwave run, because that's just no fun. And then I'm going to add some tiny crisp rice. This is different than just some Rice Krispie cereal. This is available in all your candy shops, and we do have it here as well. Okay. Now there is no magic amount to stir in there. Just get it so it looks about as thick as you want. You can also add, I've put toasted coconut in with this, right with the rice. You could chop up nuts, whether you like almonds or pecans. You could chop that up with it as well. Don't feel restrictive to anything I'm showing you or what you read in books. If your family likes something, go for it. Make what they like, or use your imagination and play with it. Okay? So this is just a standard candy mold. All right? It's a flexible plastic. One thing with the candy molds, I just want to stress, when you put these in the freezer, you don't want to sit here and wring these like an ice cube tray. You will end up cracking them. All right. And the other thing, you don't really need to wash these yes, you want to put them in hot water to sanitize them, but that's the extent of it. Then just this is just paper towel, buff them. All right. That will make them shiny. Chocolate picks up the shine from anything that it's up against. So if your chocolate is not as shiny as you like, just go back in and buff your candy molds. You could also use cotton balls for this, but that'll put the shine back in there. One thing you want to be sure, don't use harsh dish soaps on these. Definitely do not put them in your dishwasher. It will ruin the finish on them, and then you will get nothing but dull chocolates. Okay. And I apologize. Let me backtrack a little bit. I was trying to make sure I got to this chocolate before it started to set up. When you melt your chocolate, this is a pound of chocolate. All right. With the Paramount crystals, I generally put in right around a tablespoon of Paramount to a pound of chocolate. Okay, again, that's 1 tablespoon of Paramount crystals, roughly. It doesn't have to be an exact measurement. I normally just kind of pour it over there, and when it looks like a tablespoon, we go with it. And then just melt that, okay? Now, I personally use a microwave to melt my chocolates. I know a lot of people, a lot of my customers, on a regular basis use a double boiler. I don't recommend it for the main fact it's very easy to burn your chocolate with that. Okay, if you do want to use a double boiler, that's fine. Just make sure you only have your temperature on your stovetop set to low or warm. All you want is that water to be warm enough for some steam to rise off of it. Okay, so if you have the water actually boiling in your pan under your chocolate, the steam coming off of that is way too hot and it will burn your chocolate. You'll get a big thick clump of it once it's too hot. Sometimes you can save it by putting in a little bit more chocolate, just some of your unmelted. You would add that to it if you catch it quick enough. You can add that and or some Paramount crystals, and you may be able to save it and still use it. Okay? So, back to our chocolate at hand. And this is very similar to what would be like a crackle bar, if you're familiar with. Not that we're stealing anything copywritten, but that is the candy bar that it is similar to. Okay, so you saw me, I just spooned some in here. And then you just want to tap it. What that's going to do is release any air bubbles down at the bottom of your candy mold. Okay, so everything is nice and smooth. And then also it's going to level everything off. If you have too much on here, I generally would take just an icing spatula or even a paring knife. Okay, if you get too much in your mold, which I didn't, but you could just scrape along the top of that to get your excess off and just retap it and have a nice clean edge again. Okay, once you're at that point, you're ready to go to the freezer. Something this size mold, and it's, I don't know if you can see the depth of that on the camera or not, but this one is roughly a 1/2 inch deep. Probably is going to take about 5 minutes in the freezer. So I'm going to set those back here in the freezer right behind me. All right, those are set. So while those are in, we will go on to our next. And I have my handy dandy cameraman is Mr. Eric. And he just informed me that my battery might be running out on us. So we might talk just a little bit quicker. Okay. Next, I have some dark chocolate. All right. And some coconut dough. This, honestly, this is the closest stuff that I have found to the actual Almond Joy that we have here now. Love this stuff. And then I just used some roasted salted almonds. Big fans of Blue Diamond. Our dog even goes a little nuts when she sees the Blue Diamond bag come out. All right, I have just a very, very small scooper just for portion control. Okay. If you don't care if everything's even, you certainly can just grab them and roll out what you want. All right, I'm just making a small log. Set those down and we'll grab a couple almonds. And if you are making these for friends, family, please bear in mind possible nut allergies and don't cross-contaminate like what I'm gonna do here tonight. I'm gonna get rid of this chocolate after I'm all done because I am dipping almonds in and I don't want to go back and forth. So anytime, if you're making gift boxes for a bunch of different people and you're just not sure, just make the chocolate that you need that you're going to dip nuts in, okay? So then we are dipping in. Now anytime you dip, you want to tap the excess, all right? And I'm scraping along the edge of the bowl. And then I'm going to come over and lift it. Of course, it's going to look bad when I'm shooting live here. And let me set the chocolate out of the way a little bit. And this is just my paring knife. Whoops. Okay, so we scrape the edge. I'm lifting that off the spatula and then sitting down, so that way you get a nice clean finish. Tapping on the edge and then using the knife to lift it off like that, you don't get the big puddle out around it. Okay? So then, next thing I'm going to show, we'll move our paper forward just a little bit there. I've started something this year that is super popular, and I called them bombs. Basically, my thought process is that they are an explosion of flavor in your mouth. So we're calling them our bombs. All right, I'm just using a chocolate covered cherry mold. This is the smallest one that's available. And then I have some blueberry squeeze-ums, which is a softer candy filling. Again, going to use the dark chocolate. And then I also have some mini Oreos, which you have to do just a tiny bit of prep here. Actually go in and scrape out the filling. I know some people find that a little bit sacrilegious, but we just want one cookie in there. That's plenty for what we're doing. Okay. So there are two ways to make shells. I am not a fan of the whole bust out a brush and sit there and brush every one of these. What I prefer, I have a couple molds for the same size. Okay, normally I go through and fill the whole thing. I'm not gonna make you sit and watch that. But then I will take my second mold, flip that, tap it on the counter, let the excess drain out of there. Okay, you have a very nice even shell, and then I just take the edge, scrape the excess off. All right, and then I'm gonna pop that in the freezer for just like maybe 30-40 seconds. Okay, you can very easily leave those sitting in. If you, with the shells, it being so thin, it will crack if you over chill them. Okay, so when I have my last mold here, obviously I don't have another one sitting right here to do that twist. I have parchment paper on my table here. Okay, I'm just kind of tapping that lightly on my fingers. Let the excess drain out. And then again, I'm just going to scrape off to get a nice clean edge on all those. Okay. This right here will harden back up, and you can just lift that off your parchment or your wax paper, pop it back in your bowl, and remelt it. Okay. All right, so now we're going to backtrack just a little bit. Here we have our candy ready to come out of the freezer. I don't know if you can see this on the camera or not. Our mold itself is kind of frosty looking now. That is usually a good indicator that your candy's ready to come out. The other, if you flip it over, and this one actually you can see there's a little bit of shiny on there. They may or may not pop. Okay, they are popping out, good. That is all you should have to do to remove your chocolates, okay? As I said, you don't want to sit here and wring them like an ice cube tray. You'll crack these molds. If you have little ridges around the edge of this, where you've overfilled your mold, you can just take it. I'm literally just pushing this, kind of pushing the edge a little bit onto my parchment. It'll clean that off and break them off. But there you have some completed chocolates. Okay. I'm going to scoot my paper over a little bit so you can hopefully focus in on some clean area. Grab our shells here. So there we have the shells that I sat in the freezer. And then I'm going to take my blueberry filling. Okay, I just want to, woo, air bubble. gonna squeeze a little bit in there. And this especially, let your creativity run wild. There's all kinds of different flavors of the fillings. There's also tons of different little mini cookies, okay? These, again, this is just a snack sack of mini Oreos, but there's also, hop off screen here a second, these little cups that have minis in them. Perfect size also for these. These are the little mini Oreos, or Chips Ahoy, sorry. And, you know, same thing with the golden Oreos. So add whatever you think your friends or family might like, all right? Then once you have these filled up, you're just gonna take a little bit more chocolate. Ooh, and I overfilled that one. Okay. And again, you just want to tap those so it goes down in the side. Now this one especially, you can see I really overfilled that. So I'm just going to scrape some of the excess off those. Retap. And now you can put them in the freezer for, you know, 3, 4, 5 minutes to really firm everything up. Okay? All right, and then I want to show you one more thing real quick here. This is probably one of the favorites of all of our customers. I make a lot of candies too, by the way, for our customers so they can taste some of our chocolate and get some ideas with different things to do with our products that we sell in the store. Okay, so this is just a regular Oreo. Again, scraping the filling out, okay? This really doesn't take that long to do. I know a lot of people do what I'm about to do here with Ritz crackers. This is so much better, I promise. If you've tried the Ritz, please, please just do this once. You'll be thanking me forever. Okay, this is Loren's peppermint oil. And I'm just going to squirt some in here. Not a whole terrible lot. Oils are super strong. Okay. I would normally recommend grab another spoon and do a quick taste test. Okay. Just to make sure that you've got enough mint in there. Or if you, on the other hand, if you've got it way too thick or way too strong, melt a little more chocolate and add back into it. Okay. Now, I just dip my single cookie down in there. And again, tapping off the excess, scraping the bottom, lifting with another while I pull this one out, and letting it sit down there. Okay? So there we have, we've already hit 20 minutes, folks, and I don't want to keep everyone too long. But hopefully you got some use out of what we showed. And if you have any questions, please feel free, drop an email or send us a message through Facebook. And I hope you enjoyed, and thanks a lot. Have a good night.